Hey, 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 and happy Tuesday, my favorite day of the week. I hope you are all comfortable, cozy, and ready for another great, amazing evening with Amanda Peguero. The last time we saw her, we had such an amazing evening. She answered so many questions and gave us some great insight on the long term effects of abuse. So, people asked for her to come back, and we have granted that. She is here again with us this week. Hello, Chrissy. I see you. And we are going to have another amazing time, is what exactly I expect. So, if you remember the last time we were on, it was audience choice. We had an amazing evening with some phenomenal women. We had 5 women on the screen. We had lots of discussions around abuse, people's past abuse, their present abuse, and we even had some visitors that showed us a lot about domestic violence. So, it was a great evening. If you did not check it out, check us out on YouTube or a past post on Facebook. So, Amanda, as you all know, is a licensed professional counselor. She has years and years of experience with various forms of abuse, whether it's domestic violence, sexual abuse, even abuse with children. So, she's a phenomenal resource, and she is for herself, but I think everyone who knows her will probably agree. She considers herself a trauma expert. I'll tell you what, when we have conversations, when we're all together, I would say that she doesn't have to consider herself that. My girl knows her thing. And like I said the last time, she is a Latina with some credentials. So let's welcome Amanda back to the show today. Hello, mujer.
Hi.
You heard how I rolled that R.
I know. I can do it too, but I'm not gonna flaunt
You
it.
know, I let them know. Okay.
No.
What's up? So, before we get into anything, besides thanking you for coming back again and giving us your time this week, give me some input. How'd you feel about the last show? Did you enjoy being here? What did you feel the last time you were on?
So I was super, super duper psyched after. Like I was like, oh my God, I did it. I was right, I was extremely nervous when
Yes.
we talked about it like the night before. But then it kind of just flowed. It was so natural. And I actually watched myself when you sent me the YouTube link. I literally watched the whole thing and I didn't criticize myself too much, which I was very like, kudos to you, girl. But I enjoyed it. I felt like it's a topic that I love. I'm very passionate about. So it's easy to talk about. And then people are willing to give their story and willing to share, then I'm always open to listening and providing whatever guidance I can.
Amazing. Well, I just want to remind folks that the number to the National Domestic Violence Hotline is scrolling across the screen. As per usual, please make sure that you contact them if you feel like yourself, someone you know, or someone that you love is dealing with domestic violence. You can also hit us up on our website, loveshouldnothurt.com, or any of our social media platforms. Remember to reach out to 911 if you are in immediate need for help at the time. 911. Don't be afraid to call. Sometimes people are worried about calling and their abuser being around. Just like I've stated in previous ones, it's very easy. If you call 911, there are licensed professionals on the other end who are trained to deal with your call. Ask them for a pizza, ask them to speak with customer service, and they will guide you to where you need to go. So that's a quick reminder. Amanda, we have people watching already. I'm sure our numbers will continue to increase because you were amazing the last time. But for those folks who were not here, give us a small snippet about what your past is and your experience.
So I have been in the human service field for over 18 years, specifically in the trauma world for about 14 years. So I started off my social work, I guess, journey working at Congreso de Latinos Unidos with the HIV and AIDS community. I proceeded to then move into like a welfare to work program to help folks who were on welfare become self-sufficient and be able to get a job. And then through both of those organizations, I found my love for therapy.
Mhm.
I had a mentor at Congreso who was like, girl, you could do this. You're so natural. You like listening to people and you like motivating. So I think you should definitely look into therapy. And I ended up getting my master's in counseling. And then from there is where my love for trauma started. And I know a lot of people say like love for trauma.
Right.
It's weird, but I always say I'm not the person causing the pain. I'm the person helping that person get through the journey of healing from the pain. And that is a
Right.
phenomenal experience because to see people grow, to come in semi broken, because not everyone's broken, but like semi hurt or semi broken, and then see them rebuild themselves. And I'm part of that process. It's amazing. So I've worked with mostly children, but I've also worked at rape crisis centers here in the city of Philadelphia. I worked in the outskirts, the suburbs, and then in South Jersey. My most recent experience with commercially sexually exploited children, so kids who were being labor trafficked or sex trafficked. And then lastly, with immigration. So I was working with a shelter program that provided 24-hour shelter services, short term services, and then reunified kids who were detained in the South border. With a family member in the United States so that they could
Wow.
stay here, hopefully legally. So, and that's a whole different kind of trauma. So,
Yeah, definitely.
I really have experienced all kinds of things with adults as well as children.
Amazing. Wow. You have like a plethora of experience from
Yeah,
here
I
to there.
surprised
Wow.
myself.
Yeah, that's amazing. And as someone who knows you personally, I totally agree with the statement that you have the personality for it. You just flow
Thank you.
with it no matter the situation you're in, even in personal experiences. So that's a testament to you. So let's get
Thank
right
you.
into it. My first question for you this evening, can group therapy be helpful for people who've endured abuse? How helpful do you think group therapy is?
So, therapy as a whole, first off, is only helpful if you're ready for it and are willing to accept it. And I don't mean 100% ready, right?
Right.
Um, for anyone who's ever taken a driving test, I'll use that. I like analogies, guys. So, for anyone who's taken a driving test, right? You knew you wanted to get your driver's license, but taking the permit was very scary. Taking the test was even more scarier. But having to be in a car with either your parent or someone who's older than you driving is even scarier. And then on top of all of that, being by yourself is like more nerve wracking, right? What if I
Right.
do something? Who do I call? All that stuff. So I say all of that to say that therapy is no different than that, right? Like you are going to be afraid, but you have to be ready to get behind the wheel.
Right.
Trust me, people, I might take the long way, but I'll get to the point eventually. Um, so you have to be willing to get behind the wheel, and group therapy is you have to be ready for it because you're being vulnerable in front of multiple people,
Right.
right? And if you're not ready to tell your story or whatever, like that might be hard. However, one thing that a lot of groups offer is that there is not an obligation to share.
Okay.
There is an obligation for confidentiality. There is an obligation of being a safe space for everyone. But for the most part, you're either going to have to share in the intro and in the outro, just to gauge for the therapist to gauge. But group therapy is very helpful because you get to see and hear a lot of things that you think you're only going through it by yourself, right? And you get to see, like, oh, mine isn't exactly like that, but the sentiment, the emotion,
Right.
the processing, wow, that's exactly how I felt. I've seen sometimes people don't even say it, you just see it.
Right.
That a person across the room from them is sharing something very vulnerable, comfortably, and then the other person's eyes just kind of like, or they're not, they that you get a lot of this,
Right.
or you get a lot of people who are like this, and then all of a sudden there's kind of like a
Right.
relaxed, their body language is
Yes.
kind of like get very very comfortable. So ultimately my answer is going to be yes. However, I say that with the disclaimer of you have to be ready to
Right.
be in an open space because you are kind of um going from I never talk to anyone about this because I'm embarrassed or I feel ashamed or whatever to now I potentially will be sharing with other people.
Right. I think it's a lot like I've gotten a lot of calls most recently for people who are dealing with abuse or dealing with a partner or a friend or someone who's going through abuse. And they say, I want to get her out. I want to get her out and I want to help her. And the first thing I always say is, do you think she's ready? Do you know if she's ready? Because you can say that you're going to leave a million and one times, but if you're not ready, you could either end up going back to that abuser or you never will
Hmm.
leave the situation. And then that
Yeah.
puts the other person in a bad place because if they're the ones who are pushing them to leave and they're not at that place, they're going to second guess whether or not to speak about it with you the next time. So I get that.
Hmm.
Teresa says, I encourage group therapy, even if you first observe it, really put some perspective in place. Right. Because sometimes you're
Hmm.
sitting in there and then someone will speak and it's like, wow, that resonates so much with me. I've
Hmm.
experienced the same type of thing. So that's great. Um, do you think that past trauma or abuse can be completely forgotten?
So I have a difficulty with that because I don't think anything in our past can be completely forgotten.
Okay.
I think with time, it moves further back in our storage bank.
Mm,
With time, certain things don't trigger you as easily.
right.
But completely forgotten, I don't want to say no because who am I to say, but some people are very good at blocking. And that's what I would say. It's not forgotten. You just blocked it. You've put enough blocks in front of it that you don't even realize that that's part of you. I mean, we all have had a situation in our youth. I'm not going to say childhood, but in our youth or in our young adulthood, that maybe a peer or a parent or a sibling said, "Remember that time?" Da, da, da. And you're like, "I don't remember that." So
Right.
it's not that it didn't happen, and it's not that you didn't experience it. It's just that at some point in your life that wasn't significant enough, or that caused so much damage that you're like, I don't even want to remember that, and
Block
you
it out.
so you block it out.
Yeah. What what if any are like techniques you think that people should practice if they're not ready to seek therapy, if they're not ready to have groups, meet with, or they're not ready by themselves to go to a therapist? What are some type of techniques or meditation, just different things that you think would be helpful for someone who's going through any type of form of trauma or, through past abuse?
Okay. So the my preference of teaching is journaling. And journaling for me is is multifaceted. Like you don't have to just write. And I think I said this in the last show, and but I
Right.
really do believe in it's a way of purging, right?
Right.
So I really do believe in taking pen and paper, not phone and text, like pen and paper. It's something about that tactile of like taking the pen or pencil and writing it on a piece of paper that's just very therapeutic. And
Right.
writing out what you feel doesn't have to be in a sentence, does not have to make sense. It could be a grocery list type list. It could be for those of us don't like words that are more artistic. It can be an art drawing, just drawing lines. I'm going to use an example. My very first experience with therapy without realizing I was in therapy was that mentor that I told you at my job, where she said to me, I was very, very angry about something that happened. I mean, like visibly angry, but I'm a very much a control person. So I was like, you could visibly tell I was angry, but I was exerting it. And she
Right.
gave me a red pen and she goes, "Here you go. Just talk to me, but just scrape on the paper, whatever comes out." And I was like, "No, I'm not doing this. This is pre masters, pre understanding therapy, right?" I'm like, "I'm not doing this. This is dumb." And I'm like, "I'm just angry." And I'm telling you, I'm angry. She's like, "Just write, Amanda. Just write whatever comes out, or just doodle." And I just started doodling and doodling and doodling. And the more I spoke without even noticing what my pen was doing on the paper, at the end of it, you could touch the back of the paper and it felt almost like braille
Right.
because I was pressing on it
So hard.
so hard. That's how angry I was. And it wasn't until I got it all out that I was able to put the pencil down. I mean, it was a pen. I could put the pen down because I had exerted. And I said that last week. Anger is one that needs to be exerted. Now I'm in a professional setting. I can never, go off and whatever. I mean, we know we could, but we shouldn't. So it was a very, and after that, I said to her, I was like, "How did you do that?" She's like, "I didn't do nothing. I just gave you a red pen and a piece of paper and I told you go at it." And that to me is a prime example of how that was a form of journaling. That was you taking pen to paper or pencil to paper and letting out your emotions. I recommend highly for those people who have trouble sleeping to keep a notepad and a pen next to your bed.
Right.
If it's you can't stop thinking of your to-dos for the next day, you can't stop thinking about things that are very important for you to remember the next day, or if it's just bad memories and thoughts, don't turn on the light. Just take the pen, because this is not about being perfect. This is about
Right.
dumping it out of here and being able to find rest, and just write what you can with the moonlight, or if you have like a nightlight or whatever, like just with that. Don't turn on the light. You don't want to be wide awake. You just kind of want to dump it out and let it out. The other process that I love about journaling is that then I always recommend my clients, once you write it, particularly when it's negative emotions, don't look back. Don't go reread it. Write it, close the book. For some, I recommend burning it if it's something that is really bad for them, like they just need to get out of it in a safe setting, like go burn it. For some, tear it up into pieces how it makes you feel, like in as many pieces as you want, flush it down the toilet,
Wow.
like just trash it. Now, if it's an emotion that's like positive and you're feeling good about yourself, and like today I am the ish and I'm writing it down, like I am encouraged, I am happy, I am fierce, then those are the things that you want to keep visible. Like we talked last
Right.
week, vision board, post that up on your vision board. Put
Yes.
it as a picture of your background on your phone. So every time you pick up your phone, subconsciously you're realizing, like, I am the ish. because you wrote that with your own words. You know what I mean? So
So
I would say journaling. Yeah.
So you're saying that's not really, that's something I never realized, because I myself have had, I don't do it most recently, but I found it more comforting when I was in college and I really didn't have an outlet, and I was away from home and I was going through all of my, at that time, trivial things because I was in college,
Mhm.
I was young, and there
Mhm.
wasn't really lots going on, but they were major for me. When I did journaling, I always went back and I read it. And I would just be like, wow, I was really angry that day. So you're saying kind of just jot it down and get it out. And it's kind of like throwing it away, but you're
So
putting
let
it
me tell
down.
you what I do. So
Okay.
I don't throw away my journals either. I'm the type of person that I like to keep it. So when I start my book, this is Amanda's personal way. And this is,
Okay.
I found this through trying different things. And this is the one that works for me. I
Okay.
have a positivity journal and I have a I'm feeling crappy journal. So I keep them from the beginning separate. Um, one of my best friends in the world buys me a journal every year for my birthday. It's just traditional because she knows I love journaling. So I take my not so happy journal and I write in it. I do not pick up that book unless I feel at 100%.
Okay.
So if I'm not feeling good to read, I mean, I
To
don't
read.
pick
Right.
it up
Right.
unless I'm feeling at 100%. Because at 100%, I do sometimes like to look back at where I was and see where I've gotten
Where I've come. Right.
as an encouragement for myself,
Right.
right? Like,
Right.
oh wow, like this was, oh, I can remember that day. Oh wow, how different I think about the life right now. But I'm telling you, Christina, sometimes it's like 4 or 3 years ago. Because I keep the same journal. I don't pile them out. Like I just keep the
Mm,
one with negative ones and I try to use the other ones for positive things. Um, I don't have a specific love of a journal. It's like the one I first find that I like, and I'm like, this is my positivity one, and I'll find it. I have little ones that I can carry in my purse that when I used to commute on the L, I would write on the L like positive thoughts or start my day with an affirmation or end my day with an affirmation. And when I find those and I've like they say, speak it into existence, and I found that
yes.
like I've spoke that positivity is good. The other component is that even in the times where I felt like crap, and I say to everyone, I only can relate this to me and my experience because for
Right.
me to advocate for something, I have to try it. So
Correct.
anything I tell my clients to do, I myself have gotten trained on it, but then I'm trying it on myself.
Right.
And like I said to y'all, my kids might be a little messed up because I tried on them too. So, but it's just kind of like that. But to talk about my kids, to see them grow up and process life in a very healthy way is empowering to me
Right.
because I'm like, okay, I'm a little crazy, but my kids are turning out okay.
I feel that way about my daughter. So, just a reminder to our audience and those who are tuning in with us, Amanda is here to give off any information or any support that you guys may need. So, if you have a question that you'd like to pose, please do so in the comment section. I will be sure that Amanda sees it so that we can touch it. So, Teresa Fetzer says, I put things in place. I have a rock in my car, and when I feel myself drifting in places I don't like anymore, I hold that rock, and my mind now knows it's there to calm me. That's
Love
actually
it.
awesome. Yeah, I love that. That's
Love
awesome.
it. Teresa, I have rocks in my purses that I bought at rock stores that have like deep meaning. I believe in your chakra and all of that stuff. So I have them all over my house. I have one on my wrist right now that
Oh, that's
really
awesome.
gives me, so when I'm anxious or when I might play with it and it centers me because I bought it. I actually got this one as a gift. It's so funny. I bought it for someone and the same person bought it for me at the same time. So interesting. So it was a exchange of gift, but the meaning behind the
Behind
stone
it.
reminds me and centers me and grounds me. Grounding yourself is very important. So we're talking about interventions and we're talking about all that, but the one thing that I haven't mentioned is that the reason you want to do those things, the reason you want to write or meditate or take a nice warm bath and relax is to ground yourself because your
Right.
emotions are feeling too overwhelming in your body. Other things you can do to ground yourself is the five senses, right? So tell yourself and start with the harder ones with that are, I mean, start with the easiest ones with the larger numbers. So five things I see in my house. So, or if you're in the office, close your eyes. Five things I can see in my that I have in my office that I can see. Four things that I can hear. Three things that I can smell. Two things that I can touch. One thing that I can taste. And that will bring you to that moment. Doing mindful eating as well. Taking a piece of chocolate, a nut, a cranberry or a fruit and putting it in your mouth and letting it just sit in your mouth. Normally, we'll eat, think about how quickly you'll eat a bar of chocolate.
Hmm.
Even the minis, you probably don't even chew it. You put it in your mouth and bloop,
Right.
it's gone, right?
Right.
Taking that mini chocolate bar and putting it in your mouth and feeling, closing your eyes and just feeling that chocolate melt in your mouth and feeling the velvetness of it and how some of it is not as sweet. And we always think chocolate is sweet, like some of it is a little bitter,
Bitter.
and how it like coats your tongue and you're not even moving your mouth. You're just literally sitting in it.
Letting it sit there.
Same thing with an M&M when it goes through the hard coating and gets to the chocolate coating and then gets to the nut. Like that's mindful eating. That should take you, which sounds crazy, should take you up to 5 minutes to do. And if
That's
you just
awesome.
put a timer, you're kind of like, and that means you're too anxious. You got to slow things down and calm
Oh,
yourself.
I love that. I'm gonna try it. I love it. Christine Lopez says, I write in my journal almost every night. It helps. I don't read the past entries because I know it's of my past, but journaling helps me in so many ways.
Hmm. I
That's
stand by it. And I tell people, so there's people like, oh, journaling because we have the traditional, like, dear journal, today, da 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 da. Do it how it works. You mad? When I'm mad at someone, I write them letters. Unsent, remember about, I don't know if I mentioned this last time. An unsent letter is very powerful. With context, I would recommend that if it's really, really hard and dark for you, do it with a therapist or with a support person, right?
okay.
Your clergy, like we talked last time or whatever. But if you're just mad at someone and you need to give them a piece of your mind, but it's not worth it, and we all have someone that you're like, why am
Yes.
I even going to waste my time? Write
Right.
them an, it's called the unsent letter. Write them a letter. Tell them how you feel. And then, like I said, lo guarda, or you keep it for, you trash it, you get rid of it.
I like that. I like that. Teresa said, I put up post-its, and I take what I need when needed. Examples, you got this, girl. It's not your shit. It's heavy. Leave it there. Today is a whole memory. I love that.
Yes, Teresa, my other advice is take up the ante on that one. Take it another level. Leave post-its for people.
Oh, I
Because
like that
sometimes,
too.
have you ever seen those posts where people say, I don't know who needs to hear it, but you're wonderful? Like those
Yes,
things resonate with people. So now that you're doing it, you could also do it for other people.
that's right. She also says, Amanda, love that. Brings us back to enjoying the simple things and takes the focus off the negative.
Hmm.
Awesome.
Hmm.
Maylinda put up a comment, and Maylinda was actually one of our guests last week on our audience posed show. She told us a little bit of our story and what she has dealt with her past through her abuser and her children. So, background story on Melinda is that she had a child with, he's law enforcement now, I believe. And because of that, she's had a lot of barriers put in front of her. So, when she went to go, you know, claim what happened of her abuse, she ended up being, they actually arrested her. Now she has a past because of it. She has all of this craziness going on. So she has a little difficulty. He has her daughter. It's they struggle in court for her to even be able to see her daughter. So she has a lot of issues. So she has a comment. It says, I need to find a reunification and co-parent therapist to help me with my court order. Having the hardest time trying to be there for my child because there's no teamwork. Any suggestions?
So the first thing I'm going to ask her is, has she tried going directly through her child's or her own insurance? Because I always start there because that way it's not so heavy on the pocket. Because what ends up with these types of situation is that the financial aspects gets so heavy on one of the parents that then you kind of just find yourself in a bind either way. You're like in a rock, between a rock and a hard place. So that's the first thing I would say. Call your insurance and have a conversation with them. Also, some employers EAP programs, employee assistance program, this goes along with it because it's about your mental health. So if your mental health is not okay, you could use your work one, and then through there you can get someone that can help with co-parentings. They are
She said
um,
yes. She said no luck.
okay. So there's also some specific specialists though that might have to be out of pocket, and the hard part about this is that I'm not sure if legally they're requiring that they both agree, which means that if the other party, she could work hard and find someone phenomenal that's fair and neutral. And if the other party is not on board, then we're back to square one,
Right.
right? So, my recommendation would always be to then make it if this is about co parenting,
Mhm.
then somewhere within the legal documentation, it needs to say that we both are working at this so that there's some proof that at some point she tried insurance and these people and that person, and then that the other person did not show documentation. Unfortunately, I've dealt a lot with this. Most of the agencies I worked with, there was some sort of custody battle or situation. And I hear her when she says, because there's people in authority is the person who is the co-parent, it
Yes.
makes things a million times harder. I can't give you a specific solution, but I think that one, Chrissy, if you could give her my info, I could try to
Sure.
support her.
Definitely.
um because it really is a tricky situation. I know a couple people, but I don't know her situation of whether or not the co-parent is going to be on board with it.
Right. Definitely will give her your info. Melinda is an amazing woman. She's going through a really difficult time. So I think she would actually benefit from having a brief discussion and maybe just some help,
Mhm.
kind of which way she needs to go.
Yeah.
So, another question for you. What do you feel are the phases of trauma and abuse? Like, what do you feel are the phases that one kind of goes through? Because I know I've gone through tremendous phases of acceptance, then denial, then,
Hmm. So the phases you were just describing are the stages of grief, right? So
right.
everyone, um, trauma does one of the emotions that's associated with trauma is grief, because there's usually a loss of self, a loss of family, a loss of identity.
Yeah.
So there, you're going to go through the stages of grief for sure. There's no particular order of who or what is going to happen. Like I said last week, I mean, not last week, last
Two
time.
weeks ago.
There is no one right or wrong way to go through a traumatic experience or through a healing process. Everyone's story is going to be their story. You should not compare your story to anyone else's. You should not want to be where someone else got without knowing how they got there, because there's always a process to get there. But figuring it out what works for you, and that's something that's going to take time, attention, and focus. You have to be aware of what your barriers are. You have to be aware of what your strengths are. And then you can put, it's almost like a puzzle, right? You are putting yourself back together from a very traumatic experience. So, as an island girl, I love using this analogy. Hurricanes come, right? Most island folks live on an island surrounded by water, and you live your day every day like a normal day. Then you hear we're getting a nor'easter tomorrow, right? Everybody probably went and bought the last carton of eggs or a gallon of milk or whatever. But in the islands, you boarded up your windows, you went to the supermarket and maybe got rice or whatever. But for the most part, you just stayed home, right? The hurricane comes, it destroys your home. You don't just get up and move. Everybody doesn't have that luxury. For the most part, you rebuild what you have left around you. So,
Mhm.
this is the same setup for a trauma. You are going to start rebuilding, and you have to start with the easiest thing to rebuild, not the hardest thing. And usually that's what we try to do. Like, I just want to be better. I just want to feel better. But in order to feel better, you have to go through it. This is a train that has to go through the difficult, ugly, and uncomfortable things of like revisiting the abuse in your
Yes.
mind and with the person you're
Yes.
processing it with, living through like the moments of guilt and shame of like, well, why didn't I leave then? And why did I allow that to happen? Or why did I let it get that
Right.
far? Because we're really good at doing this,
Yes.
right? Like,
Yes.
Fui Joe, it's me. I did
Yes.
something wrong. Um, and understanding that internal like self blame and self sabotage and all that stuff, that in itself can be difficult. Now, there's other people who goes, it's not my fault. I was just in a very bad situation and I couldn't get out. And there's a level of avoidance there,
Yeah.
because yes, it's not your fault, but there's more to it than just saying it's not my fault. I've had people
Yeah.
sit in front of me, they're like, I don't really know why I'm here. Everybody keeps telling me that I should come talk to you,
Yeah.
but I don't really know what I'm doing here.
Right.
And I go, okay, well, I have a student right now who I sit with her in our little breakout rooms, and I just sit there. And I said to her the other day, I said, honey, I am the most comfortable with silence. Therapists are trained to sit in silence. But what people don't realize is that silence means processing is happening. But who sits in
Yes.
silence and doesn't have the wheels turning? I know I do. Even while I'm
Yes.
sitting there with
Definitely.
her or with anyone, I'm thinking like, I wonder where her mind's going. I wonder where, you know what I mean? So even sitting in silence in a therapeutic session is processing. So it's
Right.
like either way, you're in the process. So to answer your question, no, I don't think there's a specific step for any particular person. The only way for you to find your steps is to be able to start the process and realize what are the things within your control that you can actually effectively put into change mode,
Okay.
and then what are the things that are out of your control that like you can't fix right now. Like it is what it is, and it's going to be a process to get it there.
Yes. That's awesome. You always are so insightful.
Thank you.
Teresa Fetzer says, Amanda, I'm sure that most of the folks that leave your office feel a little lighter each time. I love the way you think.
Thank you, Teresa. I hope so too.
You know what? Knowing her personally, folks, I'll tell you that even in just having general conversation, you feel just, and I sound so corny, but like blessed to be around her because she's just a positive person. She'll tell you about yourself
Hmm.
if she has to, but
Kindly.
she kindly, but she always finds, the best part of every negative situation, which is a testament to just who she is and how she probably comes off to her
Hmm.
her clients. So I want to just remind folks, since we're 30 minutes in, that you can reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline. I want to make sure that's scrolling across the bottom of the screen, 1-800-799-7233. If you guys have anything that you feel that you want to ask Amanda, please add them to our comments. She is here to answer them today. Jessica Fontenay says, it's so good to see her. Jeez.
Hi,
Everybody loves
Jessica.
Amanda. Maylinda said I need her to be my blessing. She definitely will be, Melinda, and look out for that information. I'm going to send you the information so you can connect with her. So, Amanda, I'm going to go back to a question that I posed at our very first time that you were on the show, just because some folks who are watching, I see, are new people who weren't here the first time and may
Okay.
benefit from that information. So, in your experience, how has one's past abuse affected their present? So, just from things that you've experienced, what in their past do you think they've brought with them, and how has it affected them?
So I'm going to go back to what I said the last time because it's important to
Yeah,
understand that
definitely.
who we are today is created by our experiences and our interactions in the past.
Correct.
So for children who grew up in an abusive home, they created norms in their world, or habits in their world, or ways to survive their world that they still use as adults because it's just their coping mechanism. That's how they dealt with it. I'm gonna go with everything that's happening in the world today. I'm gonna go to like the opiate, epidemic that's happening in our city and all over the world, right? I always say no one growing up said, I want to be a drug addict. No one in their world said, I want to be an alcoholic. And most kids had someone in their family member that either smoked a lot, drank a lot, or did drugs. Everyone in some way, shape, or form was affected by it. However, we have other people who then grow up and might have said, Nunca, I'm not going to be that person. I'm never going to
Right.
be that person. And then
Definitely.
end up in a very cyclical cycle, like very similar to that person. How many of you have you guys seen or said, I don't want to be like my mom when I grow up? And then all of a sudden you saying something and you're like, oh
I'm my
my
mom.
God, I'm Amanda. Sorry, my mom's name is Amanda. She was very original, y'all. Um, so it's just like one of those things where it's just like we cannot escape who we were, and we learned a lot of whether healthy or negative. That's the other thing. So this is not just about kids who were in a trauma household, traumatic household. Any child created first their temperament by the age of 4, which means a type. My personality, this all that you see, is exactly who I was at the age of 4. Right? Maybe not as confident and maybe not as you know um comfortable with it, right? But I created that. At some points, my life experiences adjusted where that range went, right? So did I become more timid or did I become more outgoing? Because of my life experiences. So now incorporate trauma. Trauma affects, I didn't talk about this last week, but 2 weeks ago, but trauma affects your brain development. So if as a child you grew up in a traumatic household, your amygdala, which is the alarm, think of an alarm system, well, it's always like this, right? So now, little things, you automatically are like, oh, I'm in danger. I got to protect myself. So you have those folks who, like, I don't trust no one. I don't even trust, you know, people in my own family. And it's because of that alarm going off. That alarm got developed, got not developed, got triggered too many times as a child. So now as an adult, that alarm is like easily triggered. Versus if my brain had developed normally and tranquilly, I would have been innocent. I would have thought of like most people are kind and loving, and yeah, bad things happen, but it's very natural and normal. And I don't have this alarm going off. The best, exactly, the fight or flight response. A lot of people forget, and I'm sorry, I know you said I can curse. It's usually three responses, but there's a fourth, right? So there's fight, flight, and freeze, right? But there's a fourth, which is fuck, right? And
Yes,
it's not,
definitely.
you know what I mean? And it's not to curse, but it's just literally like our body goes through that. So if my brain at 14 is used to always being like this, porque mi casa, everything is like this, then as an adult, how do you think I'm going to function?
Right.
Simple things. The baby bottle. You didn't put the baby bottle in the warmer. Oh my God, where's the baby bottle? It's very simple, y'all. Take the bottle, put it in the warmer. We're in a rush. We got 15 minutes before we gotta leave the house. We have plenty of time,
Right.
right? Perfect example. People say to me that in crisis, I'm always like, it's all right, y'all. It's okay. We got this. In my head, Christina, oh, I think I'm like, oh my God, what happened? Oh my God. And every single person tells me, Amanda, you were so chill. I've had cases in my office and clients in my office who think if I start speaking to you about my abuse in detail, I am going to lose it. I
Yeah.
will not be able to stop crying. I am going
Yes.
to go into a crisis center. And let me tell you, they start talking and the 45 to 50-minute mark is up and I'm trying to like, bring them back cuz we got to end soon. Not one tear. And then at the end I say, "Do you notice what we just did today? Do you notice what we accomplished today?" And they're like, "No, what did we do? We were just talking about, I was talking around it." I said, "Honey bunches, you did not talk around it. Let me just repeat to you just a couple of the points that you made today so that we can wrap up today." And they leave with their jaws on the floor and they can't believe it. Like, I didn't cry. I didn't get upset. Versus there's those who do cry and make a mess, but I'm not going to leave you like that.
Right.
You're going to come like a visitor. You're going to
Right.
open your maleta. You're going to take everything out. And before you leave, we're going to fold it semi nicely sometimes, and sometimes extremely nicely, wrap
Yeah.
it back up, and you're going to go home. And that's what a good therapist is going to do for you. And I feel like we went left, but
No, you went everywhere. I love it.
just to wrap things up in regards to like how trauma affects, yes, anything that happened in your past affects the way you move today. You
Yes.
don't move the way you move because today you woke up and you're like, oh, this is new to me. Something, it might have been something you saw, something you actually experienced yourself, or even something you consistently heard. One of the things that I do not do is I do not watch the news before going to bed. Why? Because when I started to work with trauma survivors, I heard that all day. And then I came home and what's on the news? More trauma. I could not sleep. So I do not listen to the news before I go to bed. I watch a
Yeah.
comedy show. I watch a show that makes me laugh.
Right.
And that allows me to, my body to like start that relaxing bedtime routine. And then I can go to bed.
That's awesome. I just want to let Sarah know. Sarah asked on here as well if she could have your information. When the show is over, folks, I don't want to overwhelm Amanda, but I will put her details where she can be contacted in the comment section so you guys are able to reach out to Amanda. Vicarious trauma is real.
Yes, it
Uh,
is.
so, oh, I'm sorry. So, yeah, I just want to. I always say when I'm on this show that I personally can speak to folks because I can speak through my experience. So, you said that things from your past are what make you or break you or make you who you are now, which is just
Hmm.
a testament of me, like right here. Like my trauma in those 6 years and my abuse has brought me to where I am now. That's
Hmm.
made me so powerful and pushing forward and working through this organization and doing what I do for all of my clientele because it was something that affected me in my past that has made me so strong now, which is crazy because back then I did not see myself as strong. I was weak and I was, allowing people to just pretty much torment me, do what they want, walk on me.
Hmm.
And now because of that, I'm a lot stronger. You can't walk on me. I can be positive about the situation and help folks through it. So I think that that's tremendous in everyone's. So another question from last week, because like I said, there's various people who actually weren't here, or the week before, I keep saying last week,
Me too.
which is one that people, have asked before, and they've asked me as well, is how do one's abused in their past, I'm sorry, not do, how can one's past of abuse affect their intimate life?
So it goes in line with what we just talked about. You can't be intimate with someone if you are not comfortable with yourself, if you are in fear of yourself, if you are uncomfortable with yourself, if you are uncomfortable with who you are, what you are, how you are, why you are, you know, then it's going to be difficult for you to be intimate with a person. Let's talk about intimacy real quick, right?
Yeah.
Intimacy is not just I like this person, they like me, and we have sexual intercourse. Intimacy is way bigger than that. Intimacy is the giving of each other's time, space, and attention. Just that simple, right? That's
Right.
intimacy right there. If I give you my time, that means I value you enough, right, to give you my time, and it's not a job, it's not my 9 to 5. At my 9 to 5, even if I don't want to give you the time, I signed a contract, I got to give you my time. I'm
Right.
talking about I just finished working a hard day, for those that work, or I just finished watching my kids do virtual school plus feed them plus all of that stuff, and now you want my actual time and attention.
Yeah.
Like, I must really like you. And intimacy is not something that just happens between partners. Intimacy is that something that happens in friendship, that happens in parent child relationship
Right.
and siblings. And this, I'm talking about healthy intimacy. I'm not talking about like incest stuff. We're not talking about
Right.
sex. We're just talking about very clearly that connection of attention, of heart, of minds that happens between someone, right? So, Christina, you feel intimate with me to share some personal stuff. You feel very intimate with this organization that you created
Mhm.
to share parts of yourself.
Right.
Understand? So you're
Right.
comfortable enough to do that. So when you're in a relationship with someone, a new friendship, for example, you're not gonna be like, oh, by the way, blah. You're going to say, I started this organization for the purpose of X, Y, and Z because
Right.
I myself have experienced some of that. As that relationship grows, that person's going to learn a little bit more about you and a little bit more about you. And that's what intimacy starts. So put that now in a romantic relationship. If I can't have a simple, basic, foundational level conversation with you about me and how I feel about intimacy, about feeling love. Do you
Mhm.
see what I'm saying? Feeling
Yes.
love in the sense of like togetherness, not like in love, like I love you, you love me, I'm so in love with you. Like just like the basic, that's what I'm talking about, foundation love of like kindness, warmness, and like wanting to be around each other and talk to each other without feeling out of place.
Right.
There's a disconnect. No, not with you and the person. That's the problem. We always think it's the person, right?
Yeah.
Nah, that's a problem with you, dog. And that's me now. I'm getting real because I'm calling y'all dog.
That's
Like,
okay.
that's you having trouble with like, who am I? Why am I so uncomfortable with talking to this person? Because if they don't like me for who I am, then this is not for me. So my recommendation always is that pay attention. Awareness, I said this the last time, like awareness is so key. If I know my weaknesses, no one can use them against me
Hmm.
because I know them, right? So I'm not going to
Exactly.
put them on a platter for you to use them against me.
Right.
I'm going to keep them in my pocket and I'm going to be aware of them so that I can then say, wait a minute, this is a situation or a relationship that's triggering some of those weaknesses that I don't like. So I need to either dial it back or I need to figure out what is it about this relationship that's making me feel uncomfortable. We call those red flags,
Right.
right? We call those red flags like,
Right.
something is, but we tend to ignore those. But we tend to ignore those because when you've come from a traumatic experience, you don't trust your decision making. You don't trust your thought processes. You don't trust anything about what you have done in the past because clearly you didn't do it right. There's this self blame, this self sabotage, which is why I'm going to keep pushing. Therapy isn't about healing from your ex or your family trauma. Therapy is about first understanding yourself, loving yourself, being comfortable in yourself to then process all those things that hurt you. And a lot of times people think you're just going to come in and we're going to talk about all this trauma and in reality, let's get to know each other. Let's create an intimate relationship between you and I, therapist and client. And then we can move somewhere where we can now talk about the things that really hurt and make you vulnerable. Because vulnerability, when you're weak and you're vulnerable, you're not at your best. No one is. No
Right.
matter the situation, no one is.
Right. I think that's a big testament to my past. Evelyn Ramos was on the show once, and she stated that I speak of my abuser as being one person, but actually, I had plenty of people who abused me, whether it was previous relationships or even friendships, where
Mm-hmm.
I did exactly what you said don't do. I placed myself on a platter and was like, these are all the things that I feel terrible about. These are all the things I feel about myself. I feel shitty. I feel like I'm ugly. I feel like I have horrible teeth. I have a bad self esteem. I put them on a platter, which then made me prime target for them to say, oh, that's exactly what she's mad about. Let me remind her that she's ugly. Let me remind her
Mm-hmm.
that she feels fat. Let me remind her. And it was kind of like an open door, like, woo, free for all. Let's go. How do you want to treat me? Because these are the negative things that I feel about myself. So I love when I speak to you because I feel
Yeah.
like, yes, she makes so much
Mm-hmm.
sense.
So let me give you a little trick, and not you. Let me give the audience a little
Everyone.
trick. All
Mhm.
right. So when you go to a job interview and they ask you, why did you leave your last job or what happened to the last job? You don't go in there and say, I hated my boss. She was a itch. I didn't
Right.
like her. She
Right.
was this, she was that. You put your best foot forward. So
Right.
in relationships, why don't we do the
Do the
same
same
thing? Come
thing.
in there
Yeah.
with your resume, boo. Like, look, I'm the baddest thing you've ever seen on the block, boo. Like, let me tell you about myself. This is what I like. This is not let's why am I talking about my ex life? Like, let's not talk
Yes.
about the past. The past is
Celebrate
not
you.
going to get me to this new space that I want to be. And then if this is a new chapter in my life, my past is already part of me. So
Yes.
why do I need to put it on the plate and say, look, this is my past. This is what you're going to be dealing with. Nah, dog. This is what you're going to be dealing with. I'm a new woman. This is the new me.
That's
If
right.
no, if remember last time we talked about songs, Brand New Me was the song that I
Love
had
it.
on by Alicia Keys, was the song I had
Yes.
on replay
Love me too.
whenever I was building myself up from anything, relationships, family and like partners, like things that hurt me. I was like,
Yes.
oh, okay. Women always change their hair,
That's
do
right.
something different. Okay, I'm not going to just change my hair, but I'm going to assert the things that I want to see in my life now. So think about it like it's a job interview.
Yeah.
What do I want to present this person? Set a timeline. Like as cliche as like that movie, I can't think of the name right now by Steve Harvey, like to set time frames for certain things. I forgot the name of the movie, but
Oh,
I know everyone knows.
think like a man, act like a woman.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, that one. So set timelines for yourself. First
Mhm.
off, if you want to have sex, have sex. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, you know what? I want to be able to get through 3 months without having to bring up the pain from my past. That's okay. Like, nobody said, like, you know what, we're in date 3, and I kind of need to tell you that I got a crazy ex and that da 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 da. Like,
Yeah.
unless it's a problem, then, but your girlfriend's gonna be like, girl, he ain't need to know. And if I'm one of your
Right.
girlfriends, I'm gonna be like, girl, he don't need to know.
That's
All right,
right.
now I'm gonna
That's
shut
true.
up
Well, you
because
know
I
what? I
could
think
go.
that's why I think that it's a big deal for people to hear that from you, someone who works in the profession, because it's definitely something that we all do. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a big problem that a lot of women do, that we go into these new relationships and we're talking about the past. Well, I dealt with this, so I'm kind of like this, and I dealt with this, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of like that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that from friends and people all the time. Like, really? Like, you didn't have to share all of that. They didn't need to know it. But subconsciously, we feel like we need to let it out. We need to put it out there. And it's like, no, instead of celebrating ourselves the way that we should, like you said, like, listen, I'm phenomenal. This,
Yeah.
this is what you're going to get. Not talking about all the things that are negative that the person sees, which back to that, that's what brought me to the abuse, I feel, because I set myself up for that. So in my
Mm-hmm.
past, they said I was this. In my past, they said I was that. They were like, bingo, esta, yo lo puedo hacer. She's ready. She's ready to be
Yep.
abused again because that's
Yep.
exactly what she thinks of
Yep.
herself. So why would I treat her
Or
any better?
or this is not as bad as what she has. So she better be thankful that like
Thankful.
I have that she has me and that I'm doing for her because this is way better. Like I'm still here or I'm supporting her kid or and the reality is that particularly in relationships where you are coming in with becoming a blended family. Like the reality is that the adults are what needs to be strong. If the
Yes.
adults in that relationship is strong and foundational, the kids will follow suit. Same,
Yeah.
I'm going back to, I have my things that I stick with. Just like on the airplane, put on your oxygen mask first before you put on someone else's. And when you go on a date and you start a new relationship, bring out your resume. Like, don't bring out your, like, this is what bad happened to my, you don't go to a job interview and put out all the bad things that happen in your life. You
Right.
don't even start a new job and share with everybody. You kind of like,
Right.
let me peep what's going on, let me see how people are moving, and
Yes.
then you react. But that's a good opportunity for you to challenge yourself. Prime example, I was an open book before. And I've learned to not be an open book because that was one of my weaknesses. I showed my kind heart and people took advantage. So
Mhm.
for me, it was a challenge. I actually, my last job, I got it with someone who was close to me previously. So my challenge was, and I told one of my girlfriends, my very close girlfriends, I was like, yo, my challenge is to not go in there and tell him everything about my life.
Yes.
And for me, it was like, and I would remember, I would sit in supervisions with him and I would be like, this not my homie no more, right? This is a
Mhm.
boss now. Like this ain't homie status. This is, I
Mhm.
need to separate and set boundaries. I said that the last time too. Boundaries. So yo, and it was uncomfortable for him because he was like, "Oh, yo, Amanda, what's up?" And I'm like, "No, this is professional, Amanda. We're not playing that. You're not using the stuff that you might have known from me from back then. Now,
Right.
we're not doing that. I'm a grown ass woman now.
Yeah, which is a testament
Sorry,
to our conversation. Long-term effects, they
hmm
affect you, and you're still thinking about it in the future. And it's like
for
leave
sure.
that where it was in the past. So Teresa
hmm
says, "I think the exes need to stay where they are, behind you. I no longer bring them up, and if my date wants to talk about them, I'll dial the ex, and they can kick it."
I like that.
I
I
do
like that.
too.
My favorite line is also like, you want me to hook y'all up? Because we could do
Yeah,
that. Because I'm not here
you're
for that.
concerned for him.
Like, why are you
That
so
is
worried about
awesome.
something in the past? Sorry.
That's okay. So we have 9 minutes left. I'm telling you, when you get on and you talking and you're good stuff, it just kind of like goes through. So I have one more question and then I want us to
Uh-huh.
wrap it up with some thoughts. But my last question is Ray has to chime in. He said my ex. I'm an ex.
We are all exes, Ray.
We
No
are.
bashing on you. You probably have an ex that you don't want to talk about at a date. I'm just saying.
I want to thank everybody who's always watching because you guys are awesome. Even the messages on the side keep us going. It's great. So, one thing that's huge and taboo for people because they have lived through so much trauma, abuse, and everything from the past. Some people think it's positive, some people think it's negative. What are your thoughts on, say, the person did therapy,
Mhm.
it's not doing enough for them? They talk to friends, it's not doing enough for them. What are your thoughts on medication? A lot of people say, oh my God, if I take medication, I ain't crazy. I don't need that. What are your thoughts on medication? If someone is feeling as though they're feeling the long term effects, sort of like PTSD, and
Mhm.
they can't get over it, what are your thoughts on medication?
Amanda's personal thoughts on medication is I'm anti-medication, but that's my personal thoughts. I do not stop someone from taking medication.
Mhm.
I think that medication with good supervision and balance work. I think some people do need medication. So even though I'm against it, doesn't mean that I don't think some people do. I think some people need it. People who have trouble with concentrating or sleeping, sleep deprivation causes a lot of trouble. But
Right.
like guys, I grew up on the island. So mi abuelita went outside, she got these herbs, she got this, she got that. Un
Yeah.
tececito and mamita, you're good.
Yeah.
So that's why, so again, my past in my future. My children, very rarely, I don't have ibuprofen or anything in my house because that's how I was brought up. However, I do believe that there's certain medications that do help people, but again, with good supervision and a balance, not just I'm gonna take medication to feel better. I don't believe that therapy doesn't work. I believe that you didn't give it your all. If
Yeah.
you don't give it your all, it's not gonna work. You can't go sit in my chair and be like, yo, Amanda, fix me. And
Yeah.
6 months later, I'm not moving, but I'm doing all the talking.
Right.
It's
You
not
got to
gonna
work
work.
together with it.
You gotta come, you gotta give me something. It's like we're doing una juntilla, like we would say in La República, right? Estamos en una juntilla, tú vas a traer algo, yo voy a traer algo, and lo vamos a hacer junta. But we're not gonna sit here and I bring all the rice, the beans, the chicken, and I'm making it all. and then you're like, I don't like how it tastes, then dog, get in the kitchen and make it yourself. Like I can't do it for you. And here's the thing, I don't talk to my clients like that. I'm being real with you guys, but I do challenge them like that. I've had interns that I say to them, I said, when you're interning under me, I'm not going to baby you. If you say to me, I've had interns who tell me, I can't do elementary school age kids. They're too little. These are like 22, between 22 and 25-year-olds, right? Master's level interns. They're too little. I have no kids. I have no experience. And I go, then what's the point of an internship if you're not going to challenge yourself? So I'm
Right.
going to give you one client and I'm going to supervise you closely, which means after every sessions, we're going to have a check-in. Before every sessions, we're going to have a check-in until you feel like, Amanda, I don't need the check-ins no more. And guess what? I'm going to stay back. You're going to come to me when you need me. And that's the same process with therapy. It's the same thing with the way we raise our children. If we
Yeah.
do everything for them, they won't learn to do it themselves,
Right.
right? But if we allow them to fall while we can still catch them,
Yeah.
the things they will learn. So again, medication, if it's for you, appropriately supervised with a balance of something else. Like it just can't be. I'm gonna use weight loss again real quick, Chrissy, because it's just the easiest thing for people to relate. I could drink the detox pills, I could drink the hunger suppressant stuff, and I could lose weight like that. The moment I stop drinking them, what's gonna happen? I'm gonna blow up again. I mean, I'm gonna
Right.
still be hot and beautiful, but I'm gonna blow up again. So it's about exercise, nutrition. There's a balance, right? So it's the same thing with mental health. If you take medication, make sure that you are seeing someone, not just someone that's writing you a script, but seeing someone that you're actually processing, like, hey, when I take it, I've been taking it for 3 months. This is the changes that I've noticed. Journaling the changes. Like, when I started taking it, I was having headaches and this and this. Now, 2 months later, I'm not having any headaches, and making sure that you're talking to a professional, not just someone who's signing a script and letting you go
Yes.
on your way.
Right. Teresa says, I no longer opposed to it. It has helped someone I love tremendously. It is non narcotic, and I can see the difference in her, and it is a balance.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what
Awesome.
I'm saying. It works for people. Like, so for me to sit here, I, however, know my I know my I can't think of the word right now. My biases, right? So if I know my biases, I start with that with my clients. However, my biases should never stop my clients from getting what they need. So if I need to make that phone call to say, I'm going to get you the best psychiatrist in the city to make sure that you get the right medication, then I'll do that. But then I want to work with the psychiatrist and say, like, I'm going to continue to do outpatient therapy. You're going to do this component, but we're going to communicate, in a therapeutic collaborative relationship.
Yeah.
I didn't read that last thing. Sorry, I was talking.
No, Teresa said some demons cannot be fought alone. Just saying, everyone's journey is their journey.
Correct.
Definitely.
Correct.
Well, Miss Amanda, tenemos ya 3 minutos que quedan.
Time goes.
Well, as always, thank you so much because you're amazing and you have great insight. Before I'll look at that, before I close out, I have to say all the comments. I have to make sure my audience is heard. And Ray said a
Gotcha.
point. He said, unfortunately, there are professionals that are quick on putting people on meds. What should be the next step if you don't agree?
So I have as well as biases for certain locations and certain agencies that provide medication. I'm not going to speak those out loud, but I would say just like you do a Yelp review for your restaurant, like you check it out to see if it's good, you should do the same thing with your psychiatric support, like mental health providers. Anybody who calls me and asks me, how do I pick a good therapist? My first thing is go in there and interview them. This is your life. You're
Yeah,
putting your life
definitely.
in their hands. Go in there and make sure that they are going to meet your needs. Ask people who have gone to them. Ask them, where can I find out your ratings and whatever, which there are those things out there. And I would say that it's important that you find out whether or not they're qualified. The other thing is that if you already have a therapist, you should not be figuring this out by yourself. Your
Yeah.
therapist's job is to make sure to do the alley oop, right? Like, oh, here's the ball, and that other person catches it, and you literally just go from point A to point B. That other person already has a history, kind of like the story you told me. I can't remember her name, so I was with an M. You told me her background story, and then you told me what she needed, and then I said to you, well, this and this and that. Like, that is how it should happen. It should
Right.
never be like, go find someone yourself and figure it out.
Right. So, now with that being said, I just want to thank you, as always, for taking time out of your evening. I know you have children at home too, This virtual stuff is crazy. So
Yes.
thank you for taking away from your time from your family to share with us again for the second time. People, we may see Amanda around again. She is a great friend, so we may bring her right back up on the screen if anybody is interested. I'm also going to make sure that I put her information in the chat when we get off, so that if anyone feels as though they need any of her professional info, or just need help in general, or someone positive to speak to for the moment, I'll put that there for you guys. Amanda, is there anything else that you would like to display or say for our audience while we are here? People are definitely grateful to have you. They were excited to have you come again. So anything, any closing words for us?
I would just say take care of yourself. Always make sure that you're putting yourself first. Um, Selflessness is not a hero badge. Selfishness in the right quantity is important. I believe that being selfish of my time, my attention is purposeful in that helps me. So I think about who I'm spending my time with, who I am giving my time to, and also like what I'm putting and investing in myself. So I need to invest in myself to make myself greater for the people around me, but I also need to protect myself. So love yourselves, take care of yourselves, and then love the people around you, guys. I believe that love and kindness makes things better. And Chrissy said earlier, like, oh, I miss positivity. Don't, I mean, I got a potty mouth. Y'all heard a little bit about it. I get angry. I get, but I always say, if what I do doesn't make me feel better, then why do it? So if belittling you and making you feel worthless doesn't make me feel better, then I'm just not going to do it. So make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Fix your hair, take a bath, listen to your music, journal, get your eyebrows done and be fly all the time. Like whatever makes you feel great. You know what I mean? Do it. Do it. Just do it and stop thinking and feeling guilty about it. Take care of yourself. And with everything that's going on, I just want you guys to take care of yourself and love yourself. Love yourself first.
That's right. Well, those are great words to end this. We are happy that you could have joined us tonight. Everyone, please, please, please look forward. Know you are genuine. That's your energy, and it's all good, Teresa says. Look forward to our show next week. It is 2 days before Christmas, so we are going to give you a
Yay.
holiday special next week. We'll have people making coquito on the screen, some parranda music, and it's going to be a mix of Found in Translation talk show, Bomba Live, and Love Should Not Hurt. It's going to be a great show. We're going to have a lot of fun next week at 7 p.m. Amanda, muchos besos y abrazos, amiga. Thank you for being here tonight. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Bye.